This next story is a bit of a doozy. 3 Democrats on the Judiciary Committee have been hit with ethics complaints for misusing campaign funds and soliciting financial contributions on social media to support their own bills. And one of these women, apparently, I got to be really, really careful. I'm going to read through the story to avoid any potential legal pitfalls. They may have been misusing to the tune of millions of dollars. Some of it coming from Michael Bloomberg. Okay, I got to stop. I'm just going to read it and be very careful on how I comment on this because we're dealing with serious legal issues and corruption. The Daily Mail reports 3 Democratic members of the House Judiciary Committee were hit with ethics complaints on Wednesday for engaging in suspicious activities, including campaign fundraising violations and soliciting financial contributions for their own legislation on social media. Reps Madeline Dean of Pennsylvania, Pramila Jayapal of Washington, and Lucy McBath of Georgia were listed in the complaint filed with the Office of Congressional Ethics. The complaint was filed by the Americans for Public Trust, a nonprofit watchdog group formed by former National Republican Congressional Committee Research Director Caitlin Sutherland. The complaints allege that all 3 violated federal law and House ethics rules and calls for investigations into their conduct. We'll see if that happens, but I got to admit, I'm not going to hold my breath because people never get held accountable for these things. Some people have, some Republican dude just got indicted. We'll see what happens. The complaint against McBath alleges she accepted millions of dollars in illegal campaign contributions from Everytown for Gun Safety Action Fund, which is largely financed by Michael Bloomberg. Now, you see why I'm very careful about how I'm saying this, that it is alleged she received millions of dollars from a Michael Bloomberg funded organization. It seems to be about, opposing Second Amendment or promoting gun control. McBath was employed by Everytown prior to announcing her run for Congress in March 2018. The complaint states she remained employed She remained employed what does that mean? Copy editor, guys. Wow. She remained employed there's no R, for 2 more months and once appeared on TV as a congressional candidate and a spokesperson for Everytown. She also allegedly received money from Everytown for her campaign during the time she was employed there. Everytown reported in an FEC filing that they first began contributing to McBath's campaign on April 24th, 2018. However, Everytown began spending in the election for Georgia's 6th congressional district while Representative McBath was still serving as the group's national spokesperson, the OCE complaint says. Quote, "It is not publicly known what level of involvement Representative McBath had in Everytown's expenditures against her eventual general election opponent while she was still employed by Everytown. Everytown spent over $1.2 million in her primary race and over $3 million in her general election campaign, according to the complaint. If Everytown's spending was coordinated with Rep. McBath, it would constitute millions of dollars in illegal campaign contributions that were unreported, excessive, and prohibited by law." Dare I say, if these allegations are legit, it sounds like they cheated to win using a loophole. Corporate contributions to candidates are illegal under federal law unless they are donations that fall under strict rules. Contribution limits are reported. Just yesterday, McBath formally endorsed Michael Bloomberg in the Democratic primary, and there it is. So let me just walk back for a second. Again, being careful with how I'm saying this. It sounds, based on this story, the allegation states this woman was receiving tons of money through an organization funded by Bloomberg and is now, and potentially to the tune of millions of dollars in illegal contributions, endorsing Michael Bloomberg. Who endorses Michael Bloomberg? Come on. The dude hasn't even been on the debate stage, not even in a primary. He's just some rich dude dumping money into the election. And now they're endorsing it? I don't think that sounds legit. Now, moving on to the other woman. In Dean's case, the complaint claims she used funds from her suspended lieutenant governor campaign in Pennsylvania for her Congress campaign. Dean announced her candidacy for Congress in February 2018, 3 months after her campaign for the lieutenant governor position. With those prior funds, she made a congressional campaign website, paid for software for fundraising, voter contact, and reimbursed staff on her congressional campaign. Reusing those funds violates federal law, the complaint alleges, because campaigns for federal office must only use funds that were subject to the Federal Election Commission. Contributions to a state campaign are not subject to the same reporting and contribution limits as federal contributions, which basically means, once again, potential cheating. If when she was running at the state level, she received a ton of money that wasn't tracked by the FEC, you could theoretically use that as a loophole for people to give you illegal sums of cash to use in your campaign and then run for the federal level bypassing FEC laws. And there you have it. Now, I believe we go down to the next complaint, which is the last one. In Jayapal's case, the complaint alleged she violated House rules by posting social media posts and soliciting financial contributions towards a bill she introduced before the House Rules Committee. On April 30th, 2019, the committee held a hearing on the Medicare for All Act of 2019, a bill she introduced. The same day her campaign solicited financial contributions from the public to keep momentum going for the bill. I got to ask, though, what would you use that money for? Is it to run ads telling people to call congressmen? Is that the point? These posts linked to C-SPAN broadcast coverage of a hearing for the bill and reference to the hearing, which was a violation of a House rule against using broadcast coverage of official House business for political purposes. Asking for contributions toward her legislation is another House rule violation. House members are not allowed to request money or other things of value connected to official duty. So I want to differentiate between what we're seeing here, because it seems like some of these are just straight up ethics violations, but it seems like the first two could be legitimate and serious illegal activities. But now I'm going to bring you to the point at which I am oh so disappointed. How many times have we heard about potential malfeasance, and how many times has it actually been dealt with? The other day when I was doing my story on George McGovern, do you guys know the McGovern story? If maybe you didn't watch my video, it's basically about how the Democrats thought a coalition of leftists would defeat Richard Nixon's reelection, and instead the opposite happened, that Richard Nixon wiped the board. So when I'm reading this, I started reading a little bit about Richard Nixon, things I didn't know. We were asking, how did Gerald Ford become president? Because when we were looking at presidential elections, there's no Gerald Ford, and he wasn't the vice president to Richard Nixon. But we found out it was because of Nixon's resignation. And I found that kind of fascinating. And maybe it's because I haven't lived through anything like this, that I just don't expect anything to be done about any of these claims. Now, I'll be fair and say these are allegations. We don't know to what extent any of it's true. Some of it seems very easily to verify. But look, it was recently announced the DOJ wouldn't go after Andrew McCabe. A lot of people are outraged online. I'm not surprised, man. Not that I know too much about what McCabe is accused of or whether or not, look, I'm not Bill Barr. I don't know. But this never happens. They're not going to go after these people. They're going to get a slap on the wrist. Ilhan Omar was actually fined. Like they were like, yep, you did it. You committed a campaign finance violation. That'll be $500. Oh, boo-hoo. As if that matters to her. Hillary Clinton was subpoenaed for her servers. She destroyed it, purged something like 33,000 emails, literally smashed a bunch of phones with hammers, and nothing happened. Meanwhile, you got people like, they'll get Avenatti. That guy just got found guilty. They'll get Roger Stone. That guy was found guilty. But why not in this direction? Why not? Now listen, you had Ilhan Omar. You have accusations of campaign finance violation. Fine. Maybe they're not good enough. Maybe they're not strong enough. But recently we had some Republican dude accused of some crime, and he actually got indicted. Apparently he stepped down. I don't know what happened. I just have very little faith in the justice system in this country, especially when it comes to politicians. And it really does seem like there is pervasive and ongoing corruption. Now, I'll be honest. I'm happy it's not as bad as it is in many other countries, because there are a lot of countries where it's so bad you cannot even have a legitimate trial unless you grease someone's wheels. In this circumstance, however, it looks like that one woman literally was being propped up by Bloomberg and then endorsing Bloomberg. Now, there is a simple solution. I don't want to assert some grand conspiracy. Maybe she was getting paid by a Bloomberg-funded operation. Not that it was intended to be illegal, but then she went on to endorse him. I just think there's very little reason for me or anyone to feel like there's going to be real justice in this country, especially when you see what happened with Russiagate, the Mueller probe, Ukraine-gate. I hear stories about this. Great. I can talk about it. Wonderful. But in the end, will anything happen? I'm going to make a hard bet that the answer is no. Prove me wrong. Is there something I'm missing? Is there some other reason I should believe that any of these people will be held accountable? I got to admit, I don't think so. I really, really don't. Meanwhile, Michael Bloomberg is going to be dumping tons of money to try and win a presidential election. He's getting called out for it. He's essentially buying the nomination, and it's working. He's going up in the polls. That's soft corruption. I think it's sick. And I'm glad it's actually people on the left who call him out. I think everybody should call him out. Certainly some people on the right were calling him out. Donald Trump didn't dump billions of his own money into this. He actually didn't spend that much money at all and still ended up winning. But I'll tell you what, man. If you want me to have faith in this system and be upset about what Bill Barr is doing, then I'll tell you what. All throughout the Obama years, when nothing happened, you expect me to now turn around and be shocked by what the Trump administration is doing? It's not going to happen. And I know this. When Bill Barr leaves, when Trump leaves, it's going to go back to business as usual unless something is done about it. I don't know if these women are guilty. I'm not going to say they are. But I do think we deserve an investigation, right? How many years of investigations of nonsense into Trump do we get? Well, maybe we should get an investigation of this. I'll wrap it up. Stick around. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.